my son. Our hopes and dreams travel with you.
He'll be an outcast. I'll kill him.
How? He'll be a god to them.
What if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended? What if a child aspired to something greater?
All right, we're back. NYC Screenwriters Collective, the script, beat sheet edition for Man of Steel.
Yes.
I'm here. It's just me and Chris Durham this time, two script doctors. But we're the most volatile, the most entertaining. We have the most skeletons in the closet anyway. So
Yeah, the hardest opinions.
Here we go. Okay, in general, I just want to summarize about the script beat sheet edition. One of the secrets of successful film is great screenwriting, and successful screenwriting comes from great structure, right? And so one of the structural paradigms out there is Blake Snyder's beat sheet. A lot of beginner, intermediate screenwriters use it, so it's a good framework for our podcast.
Yeah, it's also, I think, a good lens for screenwriters to view movies through.
Right. Again, it's a paradigm. It's not, there's no rules to screenwriting, but it helps us break down structure, helps us break down acts and character to some degree. The Blake Snyder beat sheet breaks down 3-act structure into 15 bite-sized, manageable sections. We call them beats, each with a specific goal for the overall story. All right. We're gonna step through the beats for Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder of 300 fame, of The Watchmen fame, of Sucker Punch in fame. Anything else we're missing here?
Got it. I know he's done other stuff, but those are the highlights.
Written by David S. Goyer of the Dark Knight trilogy, of the Blade trilogy, of Dark City. David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan both get a story by credit on this film. What's the deal with that? What's Christopher Nolan's involvement here?
So Nolan's the producer on the film. Essentially what happened is a few years ago, DC, Warner Brothers, they kind of were heading into a situation where they had to produce a film or else they were going to have to pay out to the Jerry Siegel family, the creator of Superman. So what they did is they put out a request for screenwriters, comic book writers to pitch a Superman reboot. They didn't like what happened with the last Superman movie, so they said, let's reboot it.
Superman Returns, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. So they put out, this request for pitches, and at the time, Nolan and Goyer were working on The Dark Knight Rises. So they started talking about it, got a little idea going, and Nolan went back and pitched it to Warner Brothers. Eventually they said, you know what, we want to go with that, hired Goyer to write it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, but the pitching of this story is essentially so we're thinking we take Superman 1 and then we take Superman 2 and we sort of jam them together into one script. What do you think about that? And we'll throw in a little more space fighting, and we'll throw in a dragon. We're gonna have Jor-El fly on a little dragon.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about your classic villains, right? So in Superman canon, you've got Lex Luthor.
Right, okay, yeah.
Which has been done to death at this point. In fact, Kevin Spacey's imitation of Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor was one of the things that made Returns kind of like not so good for me.
Right.
So you've got General Zod, then you got other ones like
Zod's
Brainiac.
a great choice. Zod's a great choice, but also you can save Lex Luthor for the sequel, the Man of Steel sequel. Hopefully, maybe they go with Man of Tomorrow. If they've got balls, if Snyder has balls, the sequel will be Man of Tomorrow.
Well, there is a little there's a little nod, a little Easter egg referencing Lex Luthor in there.
I didn't see it.
There's a little in the fight scene when Zod kicks a semi-trailer at Superman. It's a LexCorp trailer.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Just this little tiny Easter egg.
We might get there. We might get there. Okay.
But we know what world we're in, right?
All right. So, also, what we can say about Chris Nolan is that he has successfully executed a DC Comics franchise, and he's responsible for what some people call the Nolanization of the comic book hero, making them more real to life, more less comic booky, less Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in Batman Forever. And so I could see where the people would look at David S. Goyer and Chris Nolan and say, you know what, they're going to Nolanize Superman. They're going to make him real, and that'll reinvigorate the process. We won't have to worry about what happened on Superman Returns, which to some degree, I got to say, the greatest asset this movie has is that it does feel epic. Man of Steel feels epic. You look at Superman Returns, did not feel epic. Felt like a high budget, movie of the week Superman. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I think this suffers from epicness a little bit. It gets a little too epic at a certain point. But yeah, no, this is definitely on the scale of Superman, not on the scale of Batman. And one of the things they were careful to do is, I was reading this in the Wikipedia article. It says that they made a conscious decision that these are self-contained worlds. The world of Man of Steel is not the same as the world of the Dark Knight, right? These are the only superheroes in these worlds.
Really? Really? Interesting, because that's a missed opportunity. I see.
Well, it is, and there was. I
noticed the word, the name of the city, Metropolis, didn't even show up till like halfway through the movie. So I was just like, they could be in New York. They could be doing a real world thing because. But since they chose Metropolis, I figured, well, we've got Metropolis there, and Nolan had used Gotham, so I don't know. Anyway. Let's get to some beats. Can we get the beat sheet edition thing going? Yeah.
Absolutely. So all movies start with an opening image, right? So in the beat sheet, is what is the first thing we see on the screen, and what is that going to tell us about what this movie is going to be, right?
Right.
So, David, what are your thoughts on that?
Opening image is Lara L. Giving birth to Kal-El. She's giving birth. So our opening image is a woman giving birth, and in the throes of it, which is beautiful. And Jor-El, his father, delivering the baby himself with some silver robot midwife in the corner, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk later about this silver technology throughout the whole film.
It's absurd. But yeah.
I want to hear what you think, because
I've got.
That is not how I imagine technology in the future, and it's very low resolution for me. But the opening image of a child being born, you can't get more epic. This isn't origin story. Man of Steel is an origin story. We do find out later that the natural childbirth is part of a subplot about Krypton having controlling the bloodlines, and how no Kryptonian is born naturally any further, and that Jor-El and Lara. Yeah. Is it Lara?
Lara.
Is it Linda? Is it Linda? It's forgettable, is what it is.
It's Lara. No, not for me. It's my sister's name.
Okay, sorry about that.
No. So let me ask you this, because we know that there is this natural birth thing that is directly tied to Superman's to Kal-El's whole story. Do you get the sense, and I want to look back at it, and I did today, do you get the sense that there's something special going on in this initial birth scene?
No.
Yeah, and so
It's a birth scene. It's just a birth scene. We don't know that they're defying the law by doing it. We don't know that Jor-El is starting sort of a revolution by doing that, and so it's lost on us. You know?
Yeah. Now, going back for the second viewing, I could see that a little bit. Like, you can see it. He holds Kal-El in his hands, and I can see, Russell Crowe, really good actor. You can see that there's something more than just like fatherly pride. But on first viewing, I was sitting here saying,
you're saying you see that he's never seen anything like this before. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think he's casting and projecting his hope into his son at that point.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't need to belabor the opening image, right? Like the opening image is supposed to, set up the theme of. It's supposed to represent the central struggle and the tone of the story. Maybe a snapshot of the main character's problem before the adventure begins, right? So, yes. I don't know what to call him. Clark? Do I call him Kal-El? Kal-El's main problem is he's born into a world where he's illegal and he's not welcome, and the world is being destroyed. So we get a little bit of that in the opening image.
It's good. It felt a little cliche when we started off, but once you start to learn about what the story is, it makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
And I can't think of what else you would start with. So,
but how does it match up with our closing image? Can you give what was the closing image of the movie?
So the closing image is Clark Kent, now mild-mannered reporter, going to work for the Daily Planet and being welcomed to the planet by Lois Lane.
She says, "Welcome to the planet."
So you've got. I guess it kind of does tie because you do have his welcome into Krypton at the beginning, and then his welcome onto Earth at the end.
Okay, so yeah, and also welcome to being Clark Kent and Superman, becoming the superhero.
Because that's what all this is all about.
That we know, because it is the origin. So, okay, opening, closing image, not bad.
Not bad, not perfect, but I can buy it.
Not bad, we could,
So moving on.
What's next? What's our next beat?
Our next beat is the theme stated, which is kind of part of the setup.
Okay, so the next beat is really the setup, which is the first act of the movie, but the theme stated
needs to be one of the first things that happens there.
Okay, what is the theme stated?
Oh, so I had a little trouble with this because the problem is that the theme is stated all over this movie.
There's a lot of themes, dude. There's a lot of themes. Very big, epic themes. Not all of them are followed.
The best thing that I came up with, and the best way that it's stated, is actually stated, or I should say restated, later on in the movie when Jor-El says, what if the child aspires to something greater? Mm-hmm. He says this to Clark later on in the movie, but that's essentially the question that they're asking. We've got a natural birth child. Yeah. He's full of hope. There's no predestination here.
To me, yeah, it's very similar. I'm right on board with you for theme stated. At one point, Clark's dad says you have to decide what kind of man you want to be.
Yep.
Because whatever it is, he's going to change the world.
Right.
Right. You are going to be a good guy. You're going to be a bad guy. You can be a bad guy if you want. I have no control over that.
Yeah.
I used to be. So I think that's a pretty good, solid theme stated. Either yours or mine.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, this is. And this is what Superman is, right? That this, what if you aspire to something greater? That is like the happiest manifestation of Nietzsche's Übermensch, right? Mm-hmm. The man that is removed, right? The man that is above. And Will Clark, who's a natural birth in defiance.
Right. Right. Self-determination is the theme here, right?
Right.
That's why Jor-El was defying all the Kryptonians. Because I still think the theme of you have to decide what kind of man you want to be a good guy or a bad guy is important, because when we get towards the ending, there is one of Superman's classic issues is that he wants to save everybody. The disadvantage he has against all the bad guys is they don't mind killing people. He needs to save everybody. And one of when it comes down to the ending with Zod, actually taking Zod out is a problem for him, because that says something about, is he a good man or is he a bad man? So,
yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Absolutely, we keep doing that.
That's pretty good for the theme stated. Setup. What happens in the first act of our movie? The setup is an expansion of the opening image, right? We present the main character's world as it is, maybe what's missing in their life.
To me, yeah. So to me, everything that it happens on Krypton is the setup.
Sure. Okay.
Right. I don't think the setup goes beyond that. You could argue that a lot of the stuff with him growing up is. I would argue that that's debate.
Yes. It is.
Yeah. So, but definitely the stuff going on with Krypton and that central
the backstory of Krypton destroying itself. They got greedy.
Yep.
I missed the sun crashing into Krypton. That's a much more epic, end of the world scenario than you overmine the core and now there's volcanic eruptions. No, I love that idea of the sun. Yeah. The red sun crashing into Krypton. Did you miss that? I did.
Yeah, no, I thought that let's drill the core. Who does that? That's for an advanced race. That's kind of stupid to do.
Were they getting a little overzealous? I guess it was a comment on on environmentalism, on Earth. I don't know.
Energy reliance, and
can I tell you that maybe it ties into this other thing that it was very, very lightly dropped in several places but never resolved. The Kryptonians, they explored the universe, and they made settlements in other places. But
those settlements crashed as soon as there was no Krypton. Right,
they didn't work out.
Yeah, which is silly to me, right? This 100,000-year-old race goes out to the stars but cannot survive without the Mother Teat.
Right, and the Mother Teat says, "Oh, we're gonna just keep drilling. Oh, we over drilled. We got a lot of wise people here. In fact, we have two factions. We've got Zod's faction, the military faction, and then we've got." The sort of elder council on Krypton, and we've got Jor-El, who's head scientist faction. So we got 3 sets of factions.
Yeah, you've got the greatest scientific mind of Krypton and the greatest military mind of Krypton, and they both agree on this one.
They're
point.
in agreement. That I liked. I like that. I like that Zod and Jor-El were kind of homies in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else happened in the setup? Of course, Kal-El gets placed with the Codex.
Right, which is another...
Into his genes. Another plot that you could almost strip out of the movie and we wouldn't notice.
Well, the reason it's there is because it gives Zod a reason to go searching for Kal-El. The problem that I have with it, though, is that if Jor-El is trying to... get rid of this whole predetermination thing, why is he putting the predetermined people into his son?
Yes, he should be, right, exactly. What he's doing, he basically, as far as I can tell, the Codex is a matrix of all the different DNAs and the bloodlines.
Yeah, that's made out of a monkey jawbone or something.
Right, so exactly, and it looks like a Pez dispenser, like a Superman Pez dispenser, right? So Superman comes down to Earth, and if he decided to dispense the Pez, all of a sudden we get a bunch of Kryptonians, and Kal-El could reintroduce the class distinction if he wanted to. So, but this happens in the setup. It comes back later. Everything that goes on in the setup, you're supposed to be a seed for a payoff later, and they don't all make sense here.
But I mean, this is all, the setup is the world as it is, and this is basically the world before there is a Kal-El and Kal-El becomes Superman. So I think it's perfect setup.
Okay, but you're forgetting the most important seed of the setup,
Which is
Jor-El has a friendly little dragonfly that he can fly on. Jor-El,
yes,
Jor-El watched How to Train a Dragon, and he said,
Yes.
"I gotta get me one of those."
right.
And he flies around Krypton, not on a spaceship, not with a cape or with special powers. He's got a little dragonfly that was kind of cool, but it seemed completely out of the freaking genre, right? We were in sci-fi here. We're not in fantasy. Am I right?
No, I agree. I mean, I think it was cool to see. It was cool visually. I don't really have a problem with it. I do think it's a little silly. It plays into this, epic over-the-topness. We have to really ask, what is Krypton? Where are they in their evolution?
Yeah.
I
just think Zack Snyder, he's obviously jealous of Avatar, right?
Yeah, this was very Avatar.
Totally, pulled some Avatar, all the fight sequences in the first act of the ships fighting on Krypton, and then the flying, Jor-El's flying dragon, and all that stuff. He's trying to beat James Cameron at his game. In fact, I think he's also trying to beat Roland Emmerich at his game too, because the whole I don't know if I'm getting ahead of ourselves again, but the whole thing with the frozen object underneath the ice and then exploring it felt very much like the beginning of every disaster movie we've seen, like the day after tomorrow,
right.
or the Core, or even one of the National Treasures. There's something out there in the ice, and we're going to make some jokes along the way, and we're going to get there. Is that set up still?
No, I think that's actually more.
That's debate. It's debate.
I say actually, well, not to get. Yes, that's the end of the debate.
Okay.
I think.
End of the debate. Okay.
So
I'm sorry. Let's finish off with what else is in setup, or let's go inciting incident. That's how we end up with setup, or inciting incident, or catalyst.
Catalyst is
the moment where the opportunity to go on the journey is presented to the main character. Life as it is now changes. It is the telegram that arrives.
This to me is pretty simple. It is the arrival of Kal-El's ship on Earth.
Okay, he gets shot across the universe.
Yep.
Did you notice that he's shot off in a ship that sort of is made of bone? All of Jor-El's ships are made of bone-like things, and all of Zod's ships are kind of like crustaceans. Kind of flying like an octopus slash lobster slash beetle.
I would say that Jor-El's ships take more notes from cetaceans, right? Like from whales and dolphins, right? There's smooth lines, round edges. Where you're right, all Zod's military ships are very octopus slash jellyfish slash crab.
And crab, yeah, crustacean, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad we got the sea. Okay, I'm glad you brought together the sea aesthetic, the ocean aesthetic. For this,
because there's other visual motifs in there, right? There's the scene where he sees whales, right? He's underwater and he sees the whales.
Oh, he does see the whales.
Yeah.
Man of Steel is whale fucking crazy, isn't it? Okay.
Well, you know what? If they combine it with Star Trek, we've got Star Trek 4 and Superman 2 in one.
I know. Okay. So all right, Kirk and Spock and Kal-El saving whales.
Yes.
Now we're talking. That's a critic-proof film right there. Okay, so the catalyst is Kal-El's ship is shot to Earth.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Clark as a young man on the on the on the fishing ship.
Yep, yeah, and that is a great cut.
A master stroke. Thank you. We don't want to jump right into origin stuff. We don't want to go see the cornfields again. Master stroke of storytelling there, Mr. Snyder or Goyer.
Yeah, that was great. We're about to crash into the earth. No, here's a ship crashing into the waves.
Let's move forward, because you know what? We want to move forward. The one thing that this Superman movie does is propel you forward. This thing does not stop.
Yeah, and the thing is like he covers points in the story in a very economical way. Like the story progresses forward constantly in a very concise way that doesn't waste a lot of time and gets you to the next spot and right where you need to be.
There are times where it's actually too fast and we get thin plot. I'm going to talk about that later, particularly with Lois Lane. Like her presence is very thin in this film. And which is unfortunate. But so the inciting incident, the catalyst is Clark ends up on Earth, and then the debate begins.
Right. And so the debate to me, and the debate in the beat sheet, let's define it.
Right. It's change is scary. The debate is either one moment or a series of moments where the main character doubts the journey that they must take. Can I face this challenge? What does it take? Sometimes they don't say it out loud. They're just denying it. They don't want to go on the journey, so they're sort of dealing with it.
Yeah, it's an exploration of the theme. It's questioning, like the theme's been stated, and now let's question what we're going to do about it, or what do we have to do about it? What decision has to be made to progress it.
Got it. So what have we got in our debate in Man of Steel?
So I think that everything that happens in this is a nonlinear story too. We jump around, we jump to the past in flashbacks.
It's not that nonlinear. There's a couple of flashbacks.
Right, but most of the stuff that happens in those flashbacks are debate. It's Clark asking, "Who am I?" His parents asking, "What's going to happen when the world finds out who you are?" Mm-hmm.
Clear. That's great debate stuff. But it's sprinkled in. It's salt and peppered in the middle of the older, sort of early 20s, mid 20s Clark debating also. So the young Clark at different ages debating how to fit in with these new powers, and then the older, the 20-something Clark still debating, what do I do with myself? Yeah. We cut right to the oil rig set piece. One of my comments about this movie is that, Zack Snyder says, I'm going to take Superman and he's going to go right into action, set pieces right away. Like that moment where, and also he has to innovate. You can't do the Superman set pieces the way they've been done before. You can't just catch a plane and then land it. He's got to do new things. So he goes onto the oil rig, which is awesome. He walks through a door on fire.
Yep.
That was fantastic. Of course he could do that. It's not outside of Superman's possibilities. I loved it, right?
It's great.
Later on, instead of beating up the guy, more part of the debate when he's like a waiter who gives him a hard time at the diner, right? He doesn't beat his ass, but he turns his semi into like a pincushion made of logs. That was fantastic. That's incredible.
And to me, that's your perfect save the cat moment right there, right? Because you're seeing him coming to the rescue of this waitress in distress who's being harassed by these guys, and he can't fight the guy because he knows they'll hurt him. And so he's the bigger man. He walks away, and as a viewer, you feel unfulfilled, although you completely appreciate why he did it. But then a couple minutes later, you see this dude walk out, and his truck is on stilts. His
truck is like Lincoln Logs, man. Yeah. It is hilarious. But you know what? It goes to what you said about debate, is that it talks about the theme, right? And the theme is Clark doesn't know who he is yet. Right. He just knows that he's supposed to be hiding. Yeah. He's taking on what his father told him, that they're not ready for him yet. But
we also see too that he's not completely afraid to let people see him if it means saving them, right? Like when he saves the guys on the oil rig, right? Like he comes in, he's like, "Hey, I'm the bearded greenhorn dude. You're going to talk to the guys on the ship about me, but I'm here to save you anyway."
Which is why it was a little difficult for me to understand the flashback where Clark loses his dad.
Yeah.
I just don't believe he would have done it.
Yeah, no, I thought that scene was kind of dumb too, because it was, why would Clark let his dad go and save the dog? Why not just say, you know what, I can't get hurt?
By the way, we know I'm Superman. I'll go get the dog. In fact, I can probably pick up the tornado and like throw it like a baseball bat, you know?
And he could have gotten away with doing it without giving himself away. That scene, I understand the emotional beat that
they were trying to do. Yeah, it was far too contrived. They were trying to get at the fact that Clark accepts his father's assertion that he needs to stay in hiding because the world is not ready for who he is.
Yep.
Which doesn't play out. Like, that never happens. Like, as soon as, Clark comes out, he's in cuffs and stuff. He's pretty helpful right from the start. And the general just says, "This is one of our guys." I mean, there's no persecuting of him like in the early, was it the first or second X-Men films that are all about the X-Men being persecuted, about the world not being ready for mutants.
Yeah.
We don't have that here. So that was contrived.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it's not, there's no malice. There's no, like, you're different than us. There's, like, we're going to hand you over because if we don't, they're going to destroy the world. That's a different thing than not accepting you.
Yeah. So where do we go from debate to break into two?
One thing I want to point out in debate, part of the debate, so another model that most people are familiar with for storytelling is the hero's journey.
Yes.
Joseph Campbell. So one of the key parts of that is the refusal of the call.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that's part of the debate. I think we have a perfect refusal of the call moment here. When young Clark asks his father, "Can't I just keep pretending I'm your son?" Right? That is, to me, a classic refusal of the call. He's like, "I don't want to be this." Right? I think that's like a great kind of
and beautifully done, because the irony of the father-son moment is poignant too. So extremely well written. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. I gotta give Kevin Costner credit. Like, as Jonathan Kent, he did a really good job. I really liked that character.
You didn't see the star there. You saw a dad there who was scared for his son because his son is different. Yeah.
Yep.
So break into two.
The break into two. So
the break into two is when the main character makes a choice to go on the journey, and our adventure begins. We leave the thesis world and we enter the upside down antithesis world of Act 2.
Yep, and it's usually a decision or an action on behalf of the protagonist. In this, I think that it is essentially Cal's decision, or Clark's decision, to follow down this lead that he overhears about a military dig that leads him to the under ice spaceship. Right? It's going onto that spaceship is that decision.
You could say that. You could say that, but you'd be wrong. Damn it, you would be wrong. Yeah? No.
Okay. So tell me why, and I can back it up with the next piece of the story.
Dude, it's clearly the break into two is when he puts on the suit and he walks out within the suit. I am gonna go for it. I mean, it's cinematic. The suit's on. I'm ready to go kick some ass. I mean, I think the whole underground, ship thing that we've seen in every movie. This it's from The Thing, The Day After Tomorrow, one of the national treasures. We've got a frozen ship deep in the earth. Is that what they had in one of the Predators too? I think.
Yeah.
That whole thing, you got to throw it into debate, especially because Clark is exploring. He shows up there exploring. He doesn't know what he's going to find. He's looking around the ship with Lois following him around awkwardly. I mean, what the heck is Lois doing there?
So, and that is, to me, so Lois, and maybe this is playing a little too much into the beat sheet, but Lois's arrival or meeting of Clark after he walks into the spaceship is the B story, which directly follows on the heels of the break to 2.
Yes. Yeah,
So there's that.
So I thought she was premature. She didn't need to be there before that. I think, okay, all right, so you're challenging me. You're saying it's because Lois's presence, that's when the B story is supposed to begin, then we need an earlier break into 2. I will accept your challenge. Lois's presence is when she starts looking for her man, right? Is it like her guy, right?
Yeah.
She starts tracking things down. When does that begin?
So that happens after this, right? Because he leaves her laying out on an ice floe for some reason, takes off in the ship.
And then she goes and she tracks down all the people from his past to see him.
Yeah. Yep.
So then I am right, and you're wrong.
Oh, no. I'll give you credit, though, that does make a good break to 2. It does make a decision, but I don't feel like there was ever any debate or question whether he would put on the suit. The question is, will he ever discover who he is? And this is when he starts to do it. It's when he first meets his father, his true father, right? It's when he first realizes that he's a Kryptonian now.
Part of the debate. Who am I? What am I doing?
But under those terms, the whole movie's debate, because he doesn't really come into his own as far as who he is until far later in the movie.
Okay, so a comment you made on the hero's journey. Okay,
Yes.
And I tell the writers a lot. You cannot confuse the internal arc of a hero and the hero's journey with finding themselves. Okay,
Right.
the hero's journey, Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones, Odysseus, all these people are on journeys at the end of which they do find themselves. That is not the A story, and that is part of their internal arc.
But
Okay.
that's a little different, though, right? Because that's finding who you are. This is about becoming who you are, which is a little different, I think.
The origin story is always a little bit of a cop-out on the internal arc, because it's just the origin story is the hero's journey, essentially, because the goal is to become who you truly are, right? Internal arc is to become who you truly are. It's not, in Shawshank Redemption, the arc for Red is to believe in hope again. After he's been institutionalized for so long, he's like, he doesn't believe in hope. He's going to be there forever. But then Andy teaches him to believe in hope, right? So the internal arc on a hero's journey kind of setup is always just to become the hero you were meant to be. So I don't know if I'm arguing with you, disagreeing, agreeing, but
the thing is the points that both of you and I are arguing, they're only really divided by 2 scenes, so it's pretty close.
Okay.
Right? So there's the scene where Jor-El tells Kal-El Krypton's history again.
Yeah.
We hear that again, and then
we get that fantastic silver Play-Doh technology again, and we get we get the silver Play-Doh frescoes. Did you see those? Where can I get a silver Play-Doh fresco?
Well, you know what it reminds me of? You ever see those things at Spencer's that are just like a bunch of pins in a piece of plastic, and you put your hand through it and it molds you? That's what the technology is.
No, I thought it was the T1000. I think they went and stole the T1000. They took 20 T1000s and made them into vid screens or whatever.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as the robot they got at the beginning. It's all these little beads that resolve into something, right?
That's the best you can do is like that. I mean, it looked like it looked like the screen on the early versions of the Kindle that you could barely read.
Yeah, it was really weird technology to me.
So, okay, but interesting. It's a choice. This is an aesthetic choice the architect made. What can you say?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
entirely
so
aesthetic.
back to the beats. Or what did you think of Jarrell's presence? Again, he gets to be like a shadow and explain himself.
So this is part of
Because in the original, we get Jarrell and Lara. We get sort of limited sort of choose your own adventure holograms of them. They can answer some questions, but not others.
Right. So, and this is part of Superman mythology now, right? Like, so in the earlier like Donner movies, you've got Superman carrying the glow stick to the Fortress of Solitude and being able to interact with his parents. In Smallville, you've got the same kind of thing. Like, he can always go to his Fortress of Solitude, which is always in the north, and he can always interact at least with Jor-El. So, I'm okay with it. It got.
Is this ship his Fortress of Solitude?
I don't think it is. I think it kind of suffices for it.
What happens to
story.
the ship in the movie? What happens to the ship in the movie? He takes off, right? Where does he?
Yeah.
Where does he land?
I'm going to assume it's the North Pole because we see a polar bear.
Oh, we see a polar bear.
Yes.
Well, okay then. It's not Greenland.
Right.
But
right.
so the ship essentially is his Fortress of Solitude. Okay, can I now ask a burning question?
Yes.
Since the ship got there 18,000 years ago, and Kal-El only got there 33 years ago, WTF? Explain it, Chris.
I don't know. Look, they say Krypton is 100,000-year-old race, right? The Kryptonians. So they send people out. They got trapped under ice somehow 18,000 years ago.
This was one of those colonies?
It wasn't a colony. It was a scouting mission is what I...
It was a scouting mission.
Because they actually referred to it.
But there was like a little
scout.
blizzard. There was a little blizzard, and on Krypton they don't have snow, so they were like, their technology was foiled by the blizzard.
Yes, we can travel the stars, but we can't survive ice.
Okay, so what you're saying is this was just a generic ship. It was not meant for Jor-El, but when Kal-El plugs the Pez dispenser in, that's where we get Jor-El and all the information about their past and the silver Play-Doh animations.
Yeah, you get the magic screen from that. But they actually refer to it as a scout ship. So you infer from that it was one of these ships that they sent out looking for, other places to live.
Great.
So
where are we in the beat sheet?
B story?
B story. Okay, yeah. I like the idea of Lois Lane being intrepid reporter chick. I don't particularly like Amy Adams cast as this person. I think Lois. Amy Adams. I love Amy Adams. She's been amazing in so many other things.
And she's really good in this, but she's not Lois Lane.
She is not Lois Lane. You said exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. There's something going on here where there's not that edge that you normally see in a Lois Lane character.
Yeah,
you see,
you can't get away from the Margot Kidder Lois Lane, right? Well, she's spunky, but she's also a little nuts, and she's also like a little OCD.
They do that very well in Smallville too. I don't remember her name now, but I was a big Smallville fan, and the girl who played Lois Lane in that did a good job of a kind of younger, becoming Lois Lane, but still had a lot of those those character milestones or hallmarks of that character that you don't really see here.
Story-wise, it works. I like her tracking down Superman and finding him back on the farm and. Essentially, and this agrees with my version of the beat sheet, once she tracks him down, she's the last moment of the debate. She's the one who says, you need to go out there. Is Zod calling for him at this point? Did Zod show up at that point?
So, no, that happens like a scene and a half later.
Yeah, but geez, I guess we're getting towards the midpoint, aren't we?
Yeah, and yeah, we are, and we can talk about that because that's always a fun one. But we'll get there in a minute.
So, all right. So, fun and games. Shall we? I mean, the love story begins with the B story is Lois searching for Clark. She finds him. There's various little flirtations. We never get the midnight fly.
No, I was disappointed. I was thinking about that today when I saw it again. I was like, I really want that fly around that we got in Superman 1.
Dude, that's why the chicks love Soup, man.
Yeah.
Take her for like a ride in the evening. Show her Central Park from above.
All the flying in this and catching her and flying with her is like very aggressive and very fast and like
action packed, whatever. No
doesn't
romance.
have that warmth.
The entire B story with Lois Lane is underserved in this story. It's just choppy and it's not romantic. And it's just sort of a placeholder right there. Fun and games.
All right.
This is next step. 30 pages into the script, the fun and games begins. This is where the first half of Act 2, where the audience is entertained by the main character who explores this new world he's jumped into, overcomes obstacles that have been promised by the premise of this film. What's the premise of this movie? What are the types of obstacles that Kal-El has to overcome in the fun and games that deliver on the promise of the premise of this movie?
This is where it falls apart, I think, because the premise of the premise, if you watch like all 4 trailers, the premise of the premise is all this character stuff that's going on with Superman that has nothing to do with the fun and games section.
Who am I stuff?
Yeah. Like, like what I see happen here between the Break to 2 and the Midpoint is, Clark finding out that he's Superman, right? Like he puts on the suit, he learns to fly. He.
Oh my God! The greatest American hero moment.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God! Please.
But you know what? What I love about
producers in Hollywood, somebody get in the editing room. That was laughable. People started laughing in the movie when Superman doesn't know how to fly.
Yeah, good music to that though. You gotta the whole flight scene. That the music is phenomenal.
This film score is excellent. I've listened to it independently. Hans Zimmer film score is excellent.
I've been listening to it for about a week now, and it's just outstanding.
I mean, in the end, I would have liked to hear some of the original John Williams.
Yeah.
Just a hint, an homage to them.
Even in the credits in the rear crawl, like they do with Star Trek.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah. Promise of the premise for this movie is stuff like Superman saving, holding up an oil rig, right?
Right. Yeah.
Superman saving kids from when their bus goes underwater. So that gets mixed in with the debate. So I think you may be winning the argument that stuff isn't debate, that stuff is fun and games. And it makes sense that because your B story comes earlier, and so that Superman searching through, using his vision, his heat vision to search through the ice for the ship. You could throw that into fun and games. You've got what else? Does he beat anybody up?
Not really. You've got him coming home and telling his mother he's figured out who he is, but that's not really that's not a trailer moment.
No, it's not. It's not the promise of the premise. I think if the premise is Superman searching for who he is, you're measuring it up against Batman Begins. Batman Begins is such a great origin story where Bruce Wayne is a lost young man trying to find who he is, obstacle after obstacle. He, all the different places he sends himself to find out who he is before he returns to Gotham. Because angry about the death of his father, he goes to prison. He steals. He
joins the League of Shadows.
He joins the League of Shadows, right? Yeah. All these things. are great promise of the premise for Batman Begins. That's the origin, literally the origin story. So up against that, these fun and games sort of pale in comparison. It's a little light.
It's a little light, but you know, I don't think it really hurts for it. I think the fun and game section of this is pretty short because you have all those promise of the premise trailer moments scattered throughout the rest of the movie. And like you said before, he gets to the action. We're constantly seeing set pieces. Yeah. It doesn't lag.
And bad guys close in makes up for it because there's like way too much of it. There's way too much of it. So
let's talk Midpoint.
Once again, let's get to Midpoint. Midpoint is the largest plot twist of the film. It raises the stakes of the main character's goal. It can even change the goal completely, or at least it makes the requirements of the goal more difficult, right? It can feel like a new movie's begun. It's like a new episode at the midpoint. Here, the main character has to recommit to the new goal, for which there's no turning back. Often the B story sort of incites the midpoint
or intertwines with it in some way.
Right, and often some kind of ticking time clock for resolving the goal begins ticking at the midpoint. So, according to that definition, what's our best midpoint, Chris?
For my money, it's the arrival of Zod.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you know, like it's because we have to also acknowledge that the midpoint is often a false defeat or a false success. And now we see that there's a false defeat of Jor-El's initial intentions. Like Zod is still around. He's escaped the Phantom Zone. He's here. The game has changed. The stakes are raised for Clark.
Chris, just for a moment, how do you escape the Phantom Zone?
So they get into that.
No, I want you to think about this before you answer. How did Zod escape the Phantom Zone?
The planet blew up and destroyed the engine or whatever it was that was keeping them in the Phantom Zone.
They were keeping essentially like a little net, like a little.
It was like a jellyfish, man.
It was a jellyfish net,
right?
Because it has to be ocean oriented. And they didn't put it far enough away from the planet so that when the planet blew up, it blew up. And then Zod somehow figured out how to get to Earth.
Yeah, and this is because, and this actually kind of plays into my break to two, because that incites the midpoint, which is Clark goes in, puts the Pez dispenser into the ship.
Oh, my God.
And that signals up.
I remember now. Right. When he puts the Pez dispenser in the ship, it sends a homing beacon.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
I much prefer Richard Donner's version where Zod is flipping around in that crystal diamond thing, and then a nuclear explosion shatters it, and all of a sudden they end up on the moon. Can we do that one instead?
Oh yeah. The planet Houston.
Houston.
Is this planet Houston? Terrence Stamp is awesome.
Terrence Stamp is tremendous. Michael
Shannon does a good job.
He's fine. He's fine, but they didn't write the part well enough for him. He never has any grief. He kneel before Zod. You never get son of Jor-El. The son. We will avenge ourselves on the son of our jailer. We don't get that stuff in this. All we get is I'll find him. I'm gonna find the little boy.
I'll find him.
I will. Like 4 times.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we get it. But
Zack Snyder, just because you shoot 4 takes of the same line doesn't mean you need to put them all in the movie.
It escalates, though. You know, that last delivery is gives me chills.
Stronger, more intense.
Yes.
Louder, more intense.
Same but different.
Whatever. I love Zack Snyder's films. They're amazing looking films.
Yeah, and Michael Shannon he does a really good job here, and he's a really good actor.
So Shannon does a great job. So Midpoint is when Zod shows up and does not decide to conquer Earth, with the world. What is it called?
World engine.
The world engine.
Yes. The crab claw.
The crab claw. The world.
Yes.
It's like it reminded me a lot of I don't know, like that hand in Beetlejuice. Remember in Beetlejuice, like the shrimp cocktail that grabs everybody's face at the end.
It reminds me of Toy Story. You know, the claw.
The claw. Yeah, exactly. Why doesn't he just world engine from the beginning? Because he knows.
Because he needs the codex. He needs the codex.
Oh, he knows the codex.
It's that damn codex.
Why does the codex is our MacGuffin in this movie? Because without it, a lot of other shit would not be necessary. Do we know why? Can you tell me why Zod wants the codex? Why it's so important for him to find the the genetics of the bloodlines of all the Kryptonians?
Well, because that's all that's left, right? So he's programmed to defend, or he's born and bred to defend the Kryptonian race, and the Kryptonian race is a predetermined race where every being is born from the Codex. Like this is
they're highborn, lowborn. They're
workers, they're scientists.
Right. There's a class distinction setting thing, and he's the head. He's the military head of the military. He's sworn to protect this.
Yes.
But if you were head of the military and your country exploded and you had like a really cool military, would you still be carrying out their orders? Or would you just go find like a dope planet with some great beaches and some hot ladies and just be king of the planet? He's got
what's her name? Feora, man. Like
she's hot. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
I was a fan of Feora.
Yeah.
I wanted a little more skimpy. You remember the outfit from Superman 2?
Yeah.
What was her name? The character.
I think it was Feora still, wasn't it?
Was it Feora? Did they keep the name?
I want to say it was.
Okay, because the Superman 2 outfit was a lot sexier. It was a lot more see-through. I could have used some of that.
Didn't have a bunch of
Feora in this film has some. She doesn't have a lot of lines, but she has a lot of more. They give her a lot more action and a lot more drama. She's involved.
Yeah.
Although I did miss that moment where Lois Lane punches Feora into the Fortress of Solitude from Superman 2.
Yeah.
She says something like, "Get off me, you bitch." That was like an early '80s women's lid moment.
It was probably edgy because that was PG. That was before PG-13 movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the midpoint. Ticking time clock starts, right? Because Zod says, Where's Kal-El? Bring him to me or I'm going to mess some stuff up.
Yes, or the world will suffer. That's all. Yeah. He doesn't say what he's going to do. He's just like, or else.
And then Kal-El has a little convo with Lois and decides to go, right?
Yeah.
Decides to go meet him.
Yeah, well, he decides because he has that conversation with the priest, right?
That was a great moment. Hold on. Yeah. I liked that.
Yeah, I did too.
I liked that. He goes to a priest and he says, these guys are after me. I'm the one they're looking for. I'm special. My father's told me that the world is not ready for me. And the priest tells him what?
Well, the priest tells him, you just got to take a leap of faith, and trust comes later, right? Like, and that's exactly what happens. He distills everything into that, right? Like this is the point where you've got to take that leap of faith.
I love that moment. That's a great new moment written into this movie. Because
Clark says to him, he says, I know I can't trust Zod, but I don't know if I can trust humanity. And he says, you know what, you've just got to take that leap of faith.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then does that begin the bad guys close in, would you say, at that point?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, and the bad guys include Zod, and at the beginning of it, they kind of include the military because the military is in cahoots in that they're handing him over to Zod, right?
Right.
But that's superficial.
Which makes no sense at all.
And, you know, they all they know
Scary
is,
alien with a bunch of like a scary alien army shows up
Yep.
and tells basically the American like general chief of the general joint chiefs of staff
Wanwick.
whatever, he says, hey, give us this guy and then we'll go away, we won't conquer your planet. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I missed Superman's chit chats with the president of the United States. I like the idea that Superman in the Donner movies gets to talk to the president whenever he wants, because he shows up at the White House and he's like, hey,
Like, what's up? I'm Superman. But you know,
I got the flag, baby. I got the flag.
But you know,
American way, American way.
you got to think about what's going through that general's head, right? Like, it's like, okay, we've been told that there's one of these people down here, and we see what that one person can do. Now there's a whole army of those guys orbiting our planet. You know, your only choice is to give them up.
All right. So this is Bad Guys Close In. All right. Now the fun and games get serious. Bad Guys Close In, second half of Act 2, where the audience is exhilarated by even more complex and overwhelming set of obstacles to the main character's goal. Okay.
You ratchet up the stakes. It there's escalation after escalation.
Right. You know, the characters' gifts are of little use now. Their plans are foiled. Their team is split up. Yep. A trusted friend betrays them. You know, that's the Bad Guys Close In stuff. We get a little of that. You know, Superman, you know, being so super actually doesn't work against Zod because they've got these skills too, right? And they've got ships and laser guns.
And they've got the non-kryptonite.
I'm sorry, what's the word? What did you just say?
The non-kryptonite.
Crypto what? What is that?
What? Yeah. I don't know
what you're talking about. That was not mentioned in this movie.
We don't have kryptonite, but if you go
There's no kryptonite in the Superman movie? What?
We've got Kryptonian atmospherics. Which Superman can't handle.
Like what? The oxygen, nitrogen percentages were a little off, and so he loses all his powers?
So he loses all his powers. He passes out.
One time, I inhaled some nitrous and I fell on the floor afterwards. Was it like that?
I don't know. I had a dream like this guy when that happens.
Yeah. Right? How can you take away kryptonite, dude? Just do it. Don't be afraid. It's a genre convention of the Superman movies. It's a little cliche. Just reinvent it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's I don't know. Maybe you couldn't do it because if you had Zod having kryptonite, he'd be weak too. So you
make a good point. Kryptonite was Lex Luthor's thing, right? Yeah. Kryptonite never showed up in Superman 2, did it?
No, it showed back up in 3.
There was a third Superman, was there? Really?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It showed up as the kryptonite where they added
cigarette tar,
cigarette nicotine, and we get that great scene of
Superman smoking.
Superman smoking a cigarette. Oh my God, where is that?
That movie exists right next to Highlander 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So.
All right, so Bad Guys Close In. Okay, is this where the beginning? Okay, so I've got to be honest. This is where I started to doze off at Man of Steel. The amount of action-packed ass kicking.
Oh, it is fucking overwhelming.
Is overwhelming, and it has no drama story in it at all.
It gets there at the end, but overall, from this point, basically until the end of the finale, it's just over the top action.
Do you know why Avengers was a great film?
Because Joss Whedon directed it.
That is the correct answer. You're right. I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah.
But one of the things he did so amazingly was throughout all the action, the drama continues. All the multi-plots of each hero continue.
Yeah.
throughout all the action, and we stop. We have a little action, and we have a little drama. We have a little action, we have a little drama. We don't just say, all right, it's time to turn on the action switch. Robert McKee says in his book, story, he says something about, the crime of portraiture in independent films, where they leave the camera on a beautiful sunset too long, or they watch the butterflies land on a child. That crime is as bad and as gratuitous as action-packed explosions for action-packed explosions' sake. Yeah, it's a betrayal of the drama, and
it's just absurd. It gets so absurd here. Like Superman starts running, or Zod starts running towards them, and the ground beneath their feet cracks. Right?
Okay, that's cool.
It looks cool, but it's kind of ridiculous. They touch a building, and the side crumbles off the building.
Any cinema, let's not go down too negative. Any cinematic moments, visuals from this, because Zack Snyder, this is where he eats. His visuals, he's a great visual artist. Anything that you loved, anything visual from that half that was pretty awesome?
I'm trying to think back. I mean, it's all pretty good. It all looks really amazing.
But it blends together. When you do all this action, you don't see set pieces anymore. The set piece where Clark holds up the oil rig is memorable because it's not amongst a ton of other stuff. It's just
it just keeps going further and further. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun. It's fun to watch, but there's no I've talked to a couple of people about this movie, and they all seem to feel like once this starts happening, they start to lose it. It doesn't have the same drama. There's no up and down. There's no give and take. It's all just linear escalation.
Can we find the end of the bad guys close in? Can we find the all is lost moment?
Yes.
Okay. I think all is lost. The all is lost beat is the low point of the main character's journey, where the main character loses everything they've gained so far, or realizes they now has no meaning. It's a moment where maybe the main character is lost even more than if he'd never gone on the journey in the first place, right? Yeah. Usually someone dies at the all is lost moment. Blake Snyder calls this the whiff of death. Somebody doesn't have to die, but death has to be close on the table. Yeah. It could be a physical or emotional death, right? So where's our all is lost here?
So this is where this is difficult because it's not extreme. This is actually why I went back and watched the movie a second time so I could try to find the all is lost moment.
Okay.
And so I think what has to happen with Superman, especially once he's become Superman, is because Superman is invincible, you have to see some of his story or some of the emotional beats around that personified in the people around him. And they have to kind of mirror each other. And so I think what happens is, there's a scene where they've got the Claw on both sides of the planet now shooting.
Okay. Is that bad guys close in when the Claw goes down?
That is, yes. Sure? Yes,
okay.
That is.
Bad guy close in is where we take a page out of Tolkien and essentially create two towers, right? Okay.
Right.
One is a world engine that's gonna terraform the engine, and the other is an alien ship that can shoot stuff and lasers and guns and ships and stuff.
So they're basically
they look remarkably the same.
Yeah. Well, they're working in tandem, right? Like there's even that graphic they pull up where it's showing them like shooting waves of gravity through the Earth.
Right, and so it also gives us, for the third act, it gives us two goals to accomplish, not just one, which, all right.
Well, I think it's, but I think that's more or less accomplished by the third act, that your break to three is the destruction of those.
Yeah.
But
it gives you two things to do instead of one.
Right. And so I think the low point kind of happens. So, all this destruction is happening in Metropolis. or not Metropolis, whatever it is.
It's Metropolis.
Yes, Metropolis. They just never say it is.
Okay. The Metropolis is on a sign. There's a sign.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
That's where I saw it. It was on. I forget where.
But anyway, so you got buildings falling and all this stuff, and you've got this reporter trapped beneath the rocks, right? And she's gonna die, and you've got because the whole world's falling apart, and you've got Perry White there, played by Lawrence Fishburne, trying to save her, right? And at the same moment, on the other side of the planet, you've got these weird tentacle things fighting Superman with the World Engine, and it finally kind of overwhelms him and casts him down into this big light ray, right? So visually, at least, Superman has fallen, and on the other side of the world, you've got this feeling that it's all over. These people are going to die. These people that we've grown to kind of care about a little bit through the story are going to die.
The innocence, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of your all is lost moment.
Okay.
It doesn't hit all the criteria when you describe what we think of as all is lost. It's not that deep down all is lost, but it fits.
Here's what I would have done.
Here's what you would have done. Wait, is this what you're calling all is lost, or is this what you would have done instead?
No, I don't have a better all is lost.
All right.
I didn't see an all is lost. I saw an hour and a half of explosions and people kicking at each other's asses, and it was gratuitous. The link we have to Jor-El, Jor-El shows up because of the Pez dispenser USB stick, whatever.
Yep.
I would have had that link get destroyed.
Yes, I agree. I actually thought that while I was watching.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So that we get, because remember, Kal-El, Clark is looking for his old father for so long, even though it makes his real dad a little sad, and he gets him, and he gets to talk to him, and
then he loses him,
and he becomes a mentor to him, and then he should lose him.
Yep. Yeah. No.
Even though he's dead for real, back on Krypton. Clark gets to lose him because of they break the Pez dispenser or something like that.
Yeah,
that's a great all is lost, because he does lose his mentor and I don't know. That's really what should have happened, because in the end, I guess he into the next film, Superman still has access to his dad's hologram, doesn't he?
No, I don't think so, because. There's the scene in Zod's ship where he's where Jor-El is leading Amy Adams around, telling her how to destroy the World Engine, and then
convenient.
And then later on. So during the bad guys close in, Zod goes down to the Genesis chamber and puts his Pez dispenser in. And he starts talking to Jor-El. He says, I'm having a conversation with a dead man. Jor-El says, we're both dead men. And that's what, but Zod says to him, he says, I've put my key in this spaceship or in this Genesis chamber. You're going to be wiped out from it. I have control of it now. So theoretically, that should mean that Jor-El is gone.
Why? Jor-El's like little hologram is not part of the codex.
No, it's nothing.
It was like a subroutine. It was like a little subroutine.
But it's in the Pez dispenser, and the Pez dispenser gets lost because Lois Lane has to. Because they have to put it into the Clark's ship becoming a bomb. Remember when they've got it on the airplane?
Oh my God! Is that what happened?
Yeah. So they put that in to ignite the Phantom engine or Phantom drive or whatever it is that creates
to ram the World Engine.
Which would to ram Zod's ship.
They look the same, Chris. They look the same to me. I couldn't tell.
I know. I didn't have.
They're both octopuses. They're both octopuses
with claws. But that was actually a good moment with what's his name, SVU guy, Chris.
I know who you're talking about.
facing off against Feora, and then he says, "You know what? You were right. A good death is good," and they just drive it right into the ship.
That was
a
nice,
good moment. Yeah,
good line. I want more good lines like that.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna make fun of the Genesis chamber looking a lot like the Matrix fields, but being named after the Wrath of Khan device.
Well,
Derivative or homage? I'm not making $150 million movies, so who am I to say? I'm just a guy.
Which, by the way, at this point, it's made $152 million.
Woo! Where are we? How many days in are we?
5. It was $116 million opening weekend.
This is domestic you're talking about.
Domestic, and then 12 million more on like Thursday midnight shows.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. And again, I want to say that the reason this movie is successful where Superman Returns was not is because it feels epic, and we expect the real promise of a premise of a Superman movie is epic story, epic superhero story.
The other thing I'll say about why this succeeds is look, Superman is hard to do. This is why my favorite Superman to this point.
Yes, it is.
My favorite Superman to this point has been Smallville, because the challenge in Superman is to humanize Superman. Like, I have a hard time caring about somebody who's invincible, but somebody who has humanistic problems, that I can get on board with. And you see those human problems here as he struggles with identity.
Same old identity issue.
Yeah, but
doesn't Clark realize how good looking he is? The dude is good looking. He's buff. He's super intelligent. He can do whatever he wants. He should have been like, a hedge fund manager by now. But he's off like, on a fishing boat. Is he having that much trouble? He didn't want to be a farmer.
Yeah,
I'll be a fisherman. Anyway, so okay, his internal arc aside. Dark Knight of the Soul, can you point that out for us? Dark Knight of the Soul is related to the All Is Lost moment, right? Yep. The main character hits the bottom and he wallows in his hopelessness, right? This is actually where the arc of the character completes. At the end of the Dark Knight of the Soul, the main character is fully in his essence. He's fully the man that he could be, and he goes on to the break into 3 as a complete person, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, as I said, I think the All Is Lost moment is kind of shown in that Perry White with the reporter scene. I think the All Is Lost, or the
Dark Knight of the Soul could be that falling into the pit, right?
Well, so it's both. So not falling into the pit, but so I think it's Perry White deciding, you know what, I'm going to die, but I'm going to stay here with you. The lady stuck under the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, he struggles with that, but he says, you know what, I told you I'm not going to leave you. And he decided, it's all silent, but he looks at her and he's like, I'm here, even though they know they're about to die.
Oh, I got goosebumps when you said it. He should have said it.
Yeah, true. But on the other, but you know what, he does say it like earlier. She says, don't leave me. And he turns and he looks at her and like in really good Lawrence Fishburne acting. Like, I mean, he looks at her, he says, I'm not leaving you. And then like a few minutes, and then a couple minutes later, he shows that he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, back at the ranch, Superman, who has been thrown down into the ray of the world engine, we now see him standing in the bottom, bathed in light, as he starts to rise, starts to fly up. There's nothing internal going on for him there, but
Dark Knight of the Soul sometimes is a single action or a word. Sometimes it's 10 pages of "woe is me,"
Yeah, no,
so, that's fine.
And this is Goyer.
In this genre of a film, it shouldn't be that long.
Oh yeah, and this is Goyer and Nolan repeating themselves, because this is a rise through the light, just like in Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight of the Soul has to do with his climb out of the pit.
Out of the pit, right? I think Batman Begins it's young Bruce in the down
well.
in the well too.
Yeah.
All right, great. Break into 3. Thanks to the something that also happens during the all is lost moment is some piece of new information comes out or new revelation comes out, and that fresh new information, along with the character's realization coming into his own essence being, allows the protagonist to make the choice to break into the third act, to attempt to go for the goal, the final goal, right?
Right.
This new information presents the final goal to the main character that he'll have to achieve to complete the journey finally. So what new information did he get?
There's really nothing here. Like I said, he kind of gets cast down into the ocean, then rises up through this piece of, through the shaft of light.
But how do you beat the world engine?
But we've already kind of discovered this, right? Like
by who?
Lois Lane discovers it, or she's told by Jor-El, and she comes with the army, and they grab the spaceship. That's not to defeat the world engine. That's why Superman goes.
That's to defeat Zod's ship, right? Okay.
Right. That's why Superman goes to handle the world engine.
Essentially, the new information doesn't go to Superman; it goes to Lois Lane. Because we have 2 goals for our third act here.
Yep.
Right. One is the world engine. One is Zod's ship. So Lois Lane gets the new information.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, and so on that end, with Lois Lane on the airplane going towards Zod's ship, they do have this one little threshold that they have to cross, and that she tries to put the Pez dispenser in, and it doesn't go. Right? She tries to put that into the ship that they're going to crash into, Zod's ship, and it won't go in.
She's just out of Pez. You have to buy more Pez, the packets.
Well, so then
and put them in. Don't buy the lemon. Don't buy the lemon Pez. Buy the cherry Pez.
Right. But so then the scientist guy looks at it for a while and says, "You know what? I've just got to turn part of the ship around, and now it fits." It's kind of hinky. It's not really like what we think of as new information or a new tool, or now I've got the golden fleece or something like that.
Yeah.
It's but I mean, I think that's
the break into 3 for that's the break into 3 for Lois, because at this point she's got a goal for the third act, right? For Lois and the general. What's the break into 3 for Superman?
Well, no, I think the break into 3 for all of them is after this point. Basically, what happens is both Zod's ship and the world engine are destroyed. Everybody gets sucked into a black hole except for Superman and Lois, and now it's just Superman versus Zod. I think Act 3 is all their fight.
And come on, the world engine and the ship are still part of Act 3.
But it gets destroyed. If what I'm saying is right about the Dark Night of the Soul and the All Is Lost, the destruction of the ships happens right after that. So
so that's the break into 3. That's the beginning of it.
Right. That's the break into 3, and then Act 3 is.
If you could now say you can set the third act into three notches. 1, take out the world engine. 2, take out Zod's ship. 3, head to head, Zod versus Superman.
Yep.
And is there a synthesis, a thematic synthesis in this third act from what Clark had to learn about himself to be able to achieve the success in the third act?
On those terms, not exactly. I think there's a synthesis. I think we've already said it early on in this podcast, was that the final image is Clark starting at the Daily Planet, and there's this voiceover where he talks about he needs a job where he can blend in, where nobody's going to think twice if he has to go someplace that's dangerous or he has to start asking questions. So I think at this point he's synthesizing Clark Kent and Superman. So he's now defined who he is, and he's becoming.
When he takes on Zod, when he actually kills Zod, is he like doing it out of revenge for his father?
No, he's
what
doing
is he doing it for?
So Zod has. So they have this huge epic fight. They go up into space, crash into a satellite, right? Like it's crazy. And then they crash down to Earth, and they're in this like building that's kind of like a Grand Central Station type, big open air building. And Superman gets Zod in a chokehold, but there's still like people, there's standers by. And so Zod starts shooting lasers or heat beams out of his eyes.
What did you think of all the heat rays, by the way, the visuals in this movie? Like,
I think it's the best that I've seen it done. I mean, like,
really, it just looks like they have like really like they're really hungover with this like red eye stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird effect. Like they get the red eyes, and then it goes away, but you can still see some red like under their cheeks, like in their sockets or something.
But we don't get the beams, like
No, they show the beams.
We get the beams eventually, but they're. All right.
You get the beams when you need them, and like so then you got Zod shooting these beams into the wall, but he's trying to turn his head, because he wants to hit these humans because he's just so mad. And Clark Kal-El loves these humans, and so now you're going to watch them die. And finally, Kal-El says, "You know what? No, I'm not." Snaps his neck, and it's done.
As opposed, so Kal-El in the end, Superman in the end beats Zod with muscle, with brawn.
Yes.
As opposed to Superman 2, Richard Donner, Superman 2, where Superman beats Zod with intellect. Remember, he tricks him into the reverse Kryptonian chamber to take away their powers.
It's been so long since I've seen it.
Oh, dude, don't you remember? No, when in Superman 2 at the end, they go to the Fortress of Solitude. Zod and his crew are there, and there's that one crystal tube where Superman earlier had allowed the rays of the red sun to take away his powers so that he could go sleep with Lois.
That's right. Yeah, okay.
Because you got to be a mortal man if you're gonna have sex with a mortal woman, because you don't want to, you don't want to hurt somebody. Right. So, and then somehow the green crystal allows him to get his powers back, so he can go fight Zod, even though he can never be mortal and he can never have sex with Lois again. And he tricks Zod. Zod follows him back to the Fortress of Solitude, and he just like reverses it. And he goes inside the glass case, and the beams are on the outside. So he defeats Zod with intellect, not with brawn, which is much better. Much better. He outsmarts Zod. He doesn't because Zod has 3 times the power that he has. He's got an army. He's stronger. Superman was not supposed to be stronger than Zod. He's supposed to be smarter.
Yeah.
More compassionate. He's supposed to be his father's son, the scientist's son, outsmart him that way. So that was, for me, it was a little disappointing.
But, I think in that moment, I think what he's doing, and the reason that he has that big dramatic scream afterwards, I think in that moment he's choosing between Earth and Krypton. There's a bit of that theme there. Like, Zod is going to kill these humans. The only thing that I can do, he knows Zod won't stop. Zod even says in this like ridiculously on the nose line earlier, there's only one way this is going to end. Either you die or I do.
Yeah. Well, back to that moment I was talking about where Clark's dad says you have to decide what kind of man you want to be, because whatever it is, it's going to change the world.
Yeah.
Killing guys, snapping necks is like a bad guy kind of thing to do, and so it hurts him to have to do it.
Yeah.
I think the full responsibility of what he's going to have to do to save this world is why he screams and whatnot. But what else? That's our finale.
That's our finale, and we've already discussed Final Image. It's the arrival of Clark Kent. Welcome to the planet. I think that's a great line.
Yeah, well done.
And it kind of ends on that note.
In Avengers, remember in Avengers when they're suiting up for the end fight, and Captain America is gonna put on a uniform with the stars and stripes, and he says, "Oh, he's like maybe this is not the right time for that uniform," and I think it's Iron Man says to him, "I think it's that the stars and stripes, that uniform is more important now than ever." Sort of a return to the American ideal, the superhero version of the American ideal. And
Right.
Do you remember Bryan Singer's Superman Returns? They had to get rid of truth, justice, and the American way. They changed it to like truth, justice, and all that stuff. Because I think it was like 2005, 2006. It was while America was at war with Iraq, and we were, being perceived politically as just like, a country that goes out and starts wars and stuff. Yep. I was hoping that we'd get that back. Truth, justice, and the American way.
Well, we do a little bit, though, right?
Could come back,
and
they flag.
But there's that epilogue scene, right, where Superman he throws down the drone in front of the general, and the general comes out and says, what'd you just do? That's a $12 million plane. And Superman says, well, stop following me. I know you want to know where I live, but you're not going to find out. And the general says, well, how do you know that, how do I know that you're going to act in American interests or that you're not going to act against American interests? And Superman says, dude, I grew up in Kansas. How much more American can you get? And I thought that was kind of well played.
That was good. That was good. You're right. No, that's the parallel. I didn't put that together. That is the good parallel.
But it's also interesting.
He is wearing a Royals shirt too, a Kansas City Royals, not a jersey, but a T-shirt at one point. I thought that was nice. Nice touch.
Yeah, and a couple of years, there's a big deal about this. A couple of years ago in the comic books, Superman, I forget exactly the details, but I think he renounced his American citizenship and went before the UN and said, I protect the world. It's not truth, justice, in the American way. It's not Earth.
Interesting, yeah.
And I think in a global world, that kind of acknowledgement is important. But I do like the way.
Yeah, but that's that it's still ultra liberal interpretation. If we all know, anyone who's done the comics knows that that Superman originally was a metaphor for immigrant cultures moving to America, right? That Superman, he had dark hair because he was like European coming from World War II, smashed Germany. Being welcomed into America, trying to assimilate, trying to find his gifts that he could give to this country, to this world. The original metaphor for Superman is the immigrant in America.
Yeah.
So I was just wanted to get back to that. I hope we get back to that more. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing jingoistic about that.
No, not necessarily. So.
I think that's it for the beat sheet, man. I think we did it.
Yeah, we did another one, man.
Fantastic. Any last comments or questions or whatever?
No, I just want to say, I like this movie. I think it's a lot better in the first half or even possibly the first 2/3 than it is in the end because of all the over-the-top action. But I can forgive that. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun in the end. But I really think all the character beats. I think everything is really good. It's I liked it. So
fantastic. I loved it. I enjoyed the movie. A little too action heavy at the end for me. I do think Man of Steel has brought Superman back. I hope they got the balls to go with Man of Tomorrow for the sequel, and then finally for the third one they can just call it Superman. They can just go right to Superman.
I want to see the next movie happen all in the bottle city of Candor.
I did not get that reference.
Oh.
Just to sum it up, this is the Script Beat Sheet Edition. The Script is the official podcast of the NYC Screenwriters Collective, a not-for-profit screenwriting workshop in New York City dedicated to teaching the craft of writing for film and television. If you live in New York City, sign up for one of our workshops on meetup.com under NYC Screenwriters Collective, okay? You can join our Facebook page or follow our Twitter at ScriptFeed, or you can email us at scriptfeed@gmail.com. If you email us, we will talk about your fan mail on the air. We will make fun of you or reference you, or I don't know. We'll fly you in for a web redemption like Tosh does. I don't know what we do, but we're looking forward to it.
If you want to reach out to us individually or follow us online, you can find me. I'm Constant Cinema on Google Plus and Twitter. David?
I'm David_Negrin on Twitter. Chris Durham, David Negrin, signing off. Chris, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, David.
The Script is the official podcast of the NYC Screenwriters Collective.